Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my review of The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first book inside the first era of the Mistborn series, and I'm also going to read all of the other books by Sanderson inside the Cosmere also. I don't know when I'll be completing the series, but I'm definitely going to read them and make review videos just like this one for each and every one of the books. This video will not be entirely spoiler free. I'll be giving a spoiler free review for the first few minutes of the video, and then I'll be talking about spoilers. So when I get to the spoiler part, I'll just tell you guys. Without any further ado, let's get into the various sections of the review right away. As usual, starting with the plot, here we follow our main character Vin, who's a 16-year-old petty thief, and she's a mistborn, and the meaning of a mistborn is that this person can actually ingest 10 different kinds of metals and burn them inside their body in order to do a lot of magic. But she doesn't know that she's a mistborn. She gets to know this because of this other person named Kelsier, who's kind of a rebel inside the empire, and he's a person who's also escaped from this place called Hadson, which is a very cruel place, and all the people who go there eventually die. He's the only survivor from the pit, and he discovers Vin to be a mistborn and includes her inside his crew. Now this crew as a whole is trying to bring down the empire by taking down the Lord Ruler, who's the king of this world, and he has been the king for the past 1000 years, and his rule has not been good at all. The public inside this world are called the Ska, and they are basically just peasants, and their condition is very miserable. Apart from the peasants, we also have these nobles. We have a completely contradictory lifestyle, which is totally rich and lush. So Vin, Kelsier and the crew trying to bring down the empire by taking down the Lord Ruler is the premise of the Final Empire. Moving on to the characters, we have our main crew, which consists of Kelsier himself, Vin, Doxin, Breeze, Ham, Eden, Spook, and many such characters. Apart from these, we also have some side characters who provide a lot for this plot as a whole. I can say that the plot of this book is super political, and in order to move that politics properly, all these side characters are included. Some of these side characters include Marsh, Ellen, Shan, and many other people. Some of these people are rebels, some of these people are nobles, and some of them are in between trying to infiltrate inside the nobles in order to help the Ska. I can say that the character work of the two main characters, Vin as well as Kelsier, in this one was really good. He has not completely explained to us what has happened to them in their past life, but he provides enough information in order to show us that they are the main characters and we are just going to focus on them throughout the book. I cannot say whether I like the two main characters as much until now, but I think for the first book, the character work in this one was pretty decent, and I am a character driven reader. I did not feel like I did not care about any of the main characters. I did care about the two main characters, Vin as well as Kelsier. So the character work according to me is really good in this one. Next, talking about the world building, I can say that the best part about this book is the world building, because the book is super huge. It is over 640 pages long, but it does not feel that difficult to read because most of the book is world building, and the way in which Sanderson has provided this world building to us is really nice. He does go into a lot of descriptions, but those descriptions are not very jarring that they make us feel bored at all. For example, some of the aspects of the world building which I like very much in this book is the ability of the 10 metals and showing their properties to us via some of the scenes that he writes, and the way in which each and every metal reacts with the body and the powers that each and every metal or alloy has, the landscape in which this entire story is taking place, the power of the Lord Ruler and how it rains just ashes inside this place and how miserable the people are. The food that they get is also very scarce in amount. In short, I can say that the Final Empire just felt like a fantasy book inside a dystopian world with a ton of politics, and the way in which Sanderson has written the politics is also super good. Usually I don't like politics inside the books that I'm reading because I just feel confused while I'm reading the politics, but in this one it was not at all like that. There's a ton of politics, okay? There is something that is happening continuously in the background, but the way in which he shows it to us is very interesting and easily digestible. So because of all these aspects, I can say that the world building in this one was the best. I've heard that Sanderson is very well known for his world building, but only after reading this book I can see the extent to which he can build a world and show it to us. Next, talking about the writing, I can say that Sanderson does not have any kind of metaphorical or lyrical kind of writing at all. It is very straightforward and on the face. He does not try to make us understand something by writing something else. It's not like he compares things to other things at all. It's just super straightforward, and even with that straightforwardness, the book is super huge. So if he goes into metaphors, I just think that each and every book that he writes will be over 1000 pages in length. Since the writing style was straightforward, it was also easy for me to read because there were so many things which I had to keep track of while I was reading this book. If the writing also had been difficult and was made gorgeous intentionally, I think reading this book would have been a huge chore rather than just an experience. Because of that, I can say that I liked that straightforward writing very much. Apart from this, I also liked the way in which he has written the action scenes, because there's a lot of action going on in this book, who have the tendency to do all the other things that normal people cannot do. For example, they can just run at very high speeds for a very long time and get tired also, but the way in which they accomplish it and how it makes their body feel, all those things were really nice. I can say that the way in which he has written the action scenes is very rememberable. Usually what happens is while I'm reading the book, I remember the action scenes, but after some time I just forget about how the fights actually took place. But in this book it was not at all like that. I remember most of the fight scenes really clearly from this book. At last, in the spoiler-free part, talking about the pacing, I can say that the pacing of this book is very slow, but it is super consistent also. It's not like one chapter is very slow and the next chapter is very fast. Towards the ending, things pick up a lot more pace, and the groundwork that he has done in the beginning pays off really well. But I cannot say that it is much different or much faster compared to the previous portion of the book, which is very slow paced. Though it is slow paced, it is not boring also. Usually I am a person who likes slow paced books very much because they let me spend a lot more time inside the place and imbibe all the things that are going on inside the world. In that way, I like the pacing very much. To conclude the spoiler free review, I can say that I rated The Final Empire 5 stars because I completely loved it, and I have a lot of notes because I read this for a book club, and even taking those notes was not arduous or tedious for me to do because I enjoyed the experience of reading this book and doing all the things that were associated to it also. So that's it for the spoiler free review. From this point on, I'll be discussing spoilers. So if you've not read the book or don't want to get spoiled for the book, I'd recommend you to not watch the video after this. But if you have finished reading the book, please do stay on and discuss with me in the comments below because this is a huge book. I have a lot of questions and I also have a lot of things which I enjoyed from the book. So yeah, let's get into the spoilers right away. One little thing alone before getting into the spoilers, I want to tell that I'm not going to discuss everything in the chronological order that it took place inside the book because I've not noted everything in such a way in my script. I'm just going to talk about all the things in a random way because that's how I remember the book as a whole. So the first thing which I want to talk about is the way in which we get introduced to our main character and get to know that she is a Mistborn. It's not like there is something that grand happens and out of that emerges our main character. She just does something very stupid because she does not have the knowledge that she is Mistborn and she's not supposed to use her powers on an inquisitor. She just goes forward and uses the reserve of luck that she thinks that she has, and because of that she gets caught and her crew also gets caught. This is the way in which Kelsey also finds her and gets her into the crew. I like that choice that was done by Sanderson very much because if it was just a very grand emergence just like in any other fantasy book, it would have been very dull and very uninspired also. So that was a really good element if you ask me. Apart from that, one thing which I can say that I wanted more of was the details of Hadson. Okay, we get to know that Hadson is the most horrible place inside the world, but the extent to which it is horrible and the things that happen there are not that clearly elaborated for us in this first book. Okay, we get to know that Kelsier is the only person who escaped from there and the things that he endured in there are not that elaborated in this first book. We just get to know that his wife died there and the way through which he got his scars on his forearms. That is quite a bit of information, but I think I needed a lot more because this place was said to be something which is very horrible, and I was not able to feel that horror while I was reading this book because it is a very depressing, dark, dungeon-like place. I can say that this book did not deliver that mood for me for that single place. It is not a huge thing since this is just the first book, but I just wanted more. Next, talking about the magic, I was very interested to read and know how all these different kinds of metals and alloys work and what is the power for each and every specific metal / alloy. Only after a significant chunk of the book we get to know that there are these 10 metals and all of them are in pairs. The one thing which I want to know more of is the power of gold because we just see that gold has this tendency to show the just past of that person, and we also get this scene towards the end of the book when Wynn consumes the 11th metal, and from that she sees 2 images of the Lord Ruler beside him in that place. I think the 11th metal as well as gold might be similar in some aspect because the power of gold is not that clearly mentioned or revealed here. I think it might happen in the later books inside the series. I'm not sure though. If you know it, please don't comment below because I don't want to be spoiled for the rest of the books. There are also some other things which I'm going to talk about just like this for the rest of the video also. So if you finish reading the series, please don't leave any spoilers for me after the Final Empire because I want to experience this world as a whole completely. But spoilers for this one, just feel free to talk with me because I'm very much interested. The next one is the Steel Inquisitors. They just felt like robots for me rather than just human beings or Mistborn in general. So I want more details on that also. We can see that they have spikes protruding out of their eyes and they are very indestructible compared to normal Mistborn. I think they will be expanded and explained a lot more in the next 2 books of the series. I'm not sure though. I just want to wait and see how it is going to go. There's one other thing which I found very interesting, which is the introduction of the Mistwraith. When I saw the Mistwraith in the first scene itself, I was able to guess that this is going to be put to some really good use in the second half of the book because there's no need to show a Mistwraith to us there, especially with our main characters and Kelsey explaining the tendencies of the Mistwraith to her. And I have one theory also after finishing this book. It just feels like this to me. I think the mist that is present inside this world is the deepness that existed before the Lord Ruler overpowered the deepness and got the Empire under his control. I'm not sure though because everyone is afraid of the mist and everyone was afraid of the deepness also back then. So I think there might be something similar in some way or the other. I just want to see how it is going to progress in the next 2 books. This chunk, if you ask me, is the most juiciest of all when I read this book because I had a lot of questions only for these 2 incidents in specific. The first one is when Kelsey shows this image of a flower to Vin and she just sees that with awe. But just before that in the scene, we see Vin coming out of the keep of Lord Renault, and there are flower bushes inside the garden that is present inside this place. And I cannot just understand, okay, if she had just seen flower bushes in front of her eyes in that place, why would she be so much fascinated to see this image of a flower? It just did not make sense for me at all. I think it might be an inconsistency. I'm definitely not sure, but I just felt like an inconsistency for me, so I just want to put it out here. The next one is that we get to hear that Lord Renault has known Ellen for the past 5 years, but the person who's acting as Lord Renault right now was placed by Kelsey only, and Kelsey itself only came out of Hudson just 2 years back. So there's this 3-year gap during which Renault has actually known Ellen, and I don't know how that works on. The next one is a dark chunk of the book, which I can say that I enjoyed because I do like dark chunks of a story always, and that is the scene in which all the people are drawn towards Fountain Square and hundreds of them are just beheaded and executed inside the Fountain Square, and because of that their blood just spills inside the fountain water and the fountain actually turns red. That scene was very picturesque for me, okay? It feels very gross and grotesque obviously, but it just felt so real for me, and it just showed me the view of how dark and how bad a world this is. This is definitely not a place anyone wants to live in, or definitely not a fantasy world which I think most readers would be interested in getting into. I'm sure that I'll be happy to be a Miss Bond and be able to manipulate metals, but I'd definitely not be willing to live inside Luthadel because that scene just provided so much grotesqueness for me, and it just made me feel so bad because those are the people who did not do anything at all because of the things that happened from the actions of others that just happened. So yes guys, that's it for my discussion of the book, and if you did find this video useful and enjoyable in some way or the other, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.